So to create an urn insert with a new soil, so I filled this empty pot with new soil, I've watered it in, and then I've topped it up again. So you can see it's quite heavy and quite solid. So that is going to make a nice base, and then after your greens are in, you will water it again, and then once it's outside in the cold, the water will help freeze the soil and hold your greens in place. So I typically start with the center, and I start with pine. I recommend using 3 kinds of greens at least, so you get a nice texture. So I've chosen a nice big branch form of pine for the center piece. And then I'm just going to slowly fill around. And as you can see, I am using small pieces. Some more pine. Pine does a good job of draping over the edge. I make sure I use all the little pieces. As you can see, I cut the pieces of the pine. I never used, when you get them, you get this big wooden piece. So I like to cut them all up to make them much more usable, as opposed to having them too drapey and they can't support the weight, especially if they're in the winter. So keep these in mind. You're not using this whole branch, you're going to cut it up. Next, I'm using cedar, and I'm adding cedar to fill in. As the cedar goes in, you'll start to see less and less of the soil. It does a very good job of covering up the soil. Next, I'm going to add some fir, which is a lot firmer, and once again is really going to help add some structure to the container. So I've chosen this as my front, so I'm kind of leaving a space here, but I've worked all the way around. And on this urn, I'm also going to add a 4th green. I'm going to add some boxwood. So you'll see it's more of a broadleaf evergreen, and it's going to just add a little different texture to the container as well. And again, I'm focusing these are a little bit more expensive, so I'm focusing these on the front, so you just kind of see them, where the greens for the most part are all the way around. So I'm just going to turn so you can see all the way around and see how everything is draping. Now you want to make sure that your container is going to sit down in your decorative container so you don't see the plastic edge. If you are going to see the plastic edge, then you really do need to add a lot more cedar and pine in order to disguise the plastic pot. There's nothing worse than a gorgeous urn arrangement and then you can see the plastic pot on the outside. Okay, so that's it for my greens. In this case, I'm going to add some red dogwood sticks for some nice contrast. They're pretty common in containers, but I've actually cut mine quite short, and I'm just going to group them in one area on the right-hand side. Again, you want them firmly, especially if you're leaving them long, you want to make sure that they're very firm in the soil, because the wind, they would help the wind knock over your container if it's in a windy area. For the most part, I like to keep my urns very natural looking. And I have a little trick with pine cones. So you can purchase these sticks with wire already attached, or if you can't find them or don't want to do that, you can always use wooden skewers and wrap wire around the end. I can kind of break those in half. But that's what I do, and then I wrap the wire around the base of a pine cone. So that's how my pine cones are affixed to the container. So now that they're there, I'm going to, just like I did with the greens, I'm going to push them right down. as I was saying, I really like to keep my containers as natural as possible, but it is always fun to add a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of something to the container. Those wooden sticks are also handy for putting in a bow if you're interested in adding a bit of a bow to your container. So I've tied my bow separately and then wrapped the wire around the center. And now I'm going to just stick it in there. All right, and then I'm going to add another little decorative item right here. You can make them as fancy or as basic as you'd like.